I think Game Pass Tracker knocks it out of the park because I used their tweet and they have it literally verbatim of what she said regarding Activision content. This is one of the highlights for me. Obviously, there's some lowlights which I've already discussed. Um, but this is what again. Shout out to Game Pass Tracker. They say this. According to Sarah Bond in an interview with Dinah Bass with Bloomberg, all first-party games are coming to Game Pass. Hashtag day one, including Call of Duty, which falls under across the whole slate. Now, what they are talking about is Sarah answers the question or is asked a question, and Sarah says this. And the last piece about Game Pass. We know our core users love Game Pass. Game Pass is a gaming subscription. You get a whole portfolio of games, but importantly, you get every single one of the games we build day one in Game Pass. And the quality and the breadth those games has also been going up over time. And you're going to see some more really big games going into Game Pass later this year. So Dinah asks from Activision portfolio, or Sarah answers immediately, across the whole slate. Across the whole slate. She said it twice. You're going to see some really amazing things, and keeping that as something that is really special for Xbox players is central to us. Obviously, she's answering this question with some of the criticism that came out of the way of what most of the gaming media was putting out there. Again, the story of them potentially not putting it in there, having internal talks, came the way of Tom Warren of The Verge. Now, I think Tom's quite a fine journalist, and I do like his work. Where he gets his information, it doesn't matter. The information is out there. I like the way she handled this. Let's talk about it. Again, there's no specific direction. I just want to hear what your thoughts on this interview for Sarah Bond, Fuzzy.
It part of it was a tough to watch because you could tell, like you said, some of the body language. There seemed to be some uncomfortableness to it, but we've seen Phil in that same spot type of thing. But overall, the I wouldn't say the doubling down, but like the reassurance as far as the Game Pass was a breath of fresh air, considering the rumors that were going around, like you said. And we know rumors are rumors for a reason. They're just rumors until something's officially announced. But we've kind of seen where that's led in the past, where sometimes some of the rumors there's a little bit of smoke or a little bit of fire behind it that causes that to come out. But the thing as far as Game Pass was a breath of fresh air. The answering or the response she gave with Tango was a little less reassuring. But
yes,
I think the big thing is you could, and I don't want to make excuses for anyone. And okay. So first of all, I feel strange, or it feels strange having her talk about that right now, but she can't say, well, go ask Phil that. But it almost feels like that's, she doesn't have the final say of closing the studio. She's in charge of Xbox, which is mainly the hardware and the ecosystem part of it. The studio stuff falls on Matt Booty, so his butt needs to be grilled on that. And then ultimately, their overall boss is Phil, so he also needs to be questioned about that. But we've seen he's radio silent right now, and I kind of get the feeling that the reason why they're all radio silent is. And I don't want to give them the leeway of saying, okay, the Money Men or Satya and Amy Hood and all of them are kind of like tied their hands. Like, okay, we spent the money, show us our return kind of thing. And it almost feels like that to some extent, because the 4 games thing, if we look back at that just real quick, one of the games that was put on that test, because they said it was a test, that studio is now closed.
Indeed.
The other studios in that test also on that brink kind of thing. And that's part of what I'm worried about with them asking her about Tango and then not having an answer. I mean, yes, we know they didn't meet whatever possible metric as far as numbers for sales. They met player numbers, which that was what was stated. How true? we won't know because Grubb, we probably all gave him smoke for saying what he said, and kind of turns out like I guess with him getting the info from Microsoft and not Xbox, and Xbox saying one thing, somebody at Microsoft was probably right, and that's why Tango's no longer a thing. And yes, you can look back at okay, the other IPs that they've done haven't performed as well, but if that's going to be the metric with Game Pass as a thing, which that was supposed to be kind of a shield per se. You have your
Yes.
AAA bangers like your Starfields, your Halos, your Forza Horizons even, and it would kind of shield the rest. If that's not the case, then me as the racing fan starts to look at when do we get that sad news on turn 10. Now let's be clear. Yes, Forza is a pillar, but Forza Motorsport didn't come out in the best of fashion.
Yep.
I wouldn't say it was as bad in the public's eye as let's say Redfall, but it was bad. The performance and the handling of the car, they knocked that out of the park. A lot of the other stuff was way behind what they expected to deliver, and without exposing behind the scenes info, a lot of that stuff was kind of forced out the door against the better wishes of what they knew was ready and not ready. Mm-hmm. So there were some compromises made, and that's not the big Forza title in Xbox hierarchy. Like Horizon is now the king as far as Forza is concerned because that brings in the players and it brings in the money. Motorsport was never really that. It's always been the niche where you might get a couple million players. Well, if Hi-Fi Rush had 4 million players, and I can almost guarantee you we're barely at 2 million players on Motorsport, what does that say about Turn 10? Are they next? Yes, they have this ongoing game with Motorsport, but does that mean at some point when they need to worry about a Motorsport 2, or they want to do an overhaul and add more features, because of that cost, is that going to now be on, some sort of, scrutiny and chopping block? Like part of the stuff that came out was that the reason why they were closed is because they've already wrapped up their stuff, other than yes, they had some other projects they were working on, like with Arcane Austin. They were working on stuff for Redfall, which would have probably gotten it in a better state. Maybe not to the point where it'd be like Fallout 76 kind of thing, but they've already improved a good bit from its original launch, and they had some more things that would probably give it a long-term better standing within the Game Pass, family kind of thing. And now they need to worry about, their next project, and the same thing with Tango. And keep in mind, we're talking about next gen possibly coming in 2026. So when you start having the studios look at this at like, oh, we have to pitch for the next title. Okay, well, before we weren't told that sales was the thing. It was the player engagement or player count or something like that. And now it's like, oh yeah, no, we need to do the sales on top of that. That's like added pressure for all these new pitches that are going to be like your year 2, your year 3, and year 4 for your next gen. Like we can kind of understand that some of these titles that we've kind of known about that haven't released yet are going to probably be, some of the launch titles for next gen, and maybe even cross gen for like the series console. But after that, it almost feels like Microsoft, not the heads at Xbox themselves, but Microsoft is kind of cutting back or scaling back, almost like the way they did at the beginning of Xbox One, where it's like, okay, well, you got your launch lineup set, but yeah, we're going to close this studio, we're going to close that studio because you don't need them. Oh, and you only have this kind of budget to work with, and that's my fear. But all of this is speculation. Like, the only thing that we know at this point in time is that Hellblade comes out in 11 days, showcase in June, and this is a bitter pill to swallow in the meantime. Heart goes out to those at Tango. I know there were rumors as far as like Shinji Mikami taking players or key personnel. Stop that.
Yeah, that's actually been debunked. I saw a lot of people running with it. As a matter of fact, let me just give let's see, you man in the chat says one person leaving the studio. He was referring basically to that, and what Fuzzy's talking about and who debunked it is why you should listen to it. Now there was a rumor that when Shinji, who was obviously the studio head of Tango, left. He's with one of the original creators of Resident Evil. He spearheaded, obviously, Evil Within 1 and 2. He did not want to make Evil Within 3. He wanted to make smaller games. So he left the studio. The rumor that that Fuzzy's referring to is that he took his staff with him and left them with a skeleton crew. That is not in fact true at all. And you know who confirmed that? Jez Corden confirmed that did not happen. People stayed with the thought that they were going to make Evil Within 3, and they were already pitching a Hi-Fi Rush 2. They were also in development of a JRPG that was early in development as well. So they didn't leave. So please continue.
Yeah, they didn't lose all their talent when Shinji Mikami left. And they didn't lose all their talent when, I hope I don't butcher her name, Ikamuri Nakamura. If you've ever seen during the Summer Games Fest, I think it was like the Studio Unseen, where it had like a very colorful, like animated game where, I guess at like if your vision that you normally see, there's no monsters, but you put like special glasses on and you shine a certain light, you can see the monsters that are kind of like hiding in broad, light, daylight kind of thing.
Is that when you took photos with? Like you took? Yes. Okay.
Not many of the people left, but keep in mind, head talent leaves studios all the time. And I know people try to start FUD with the whole, Ninja Theory when that guy left. That was like the founder. He makes the decisions, but he's not necessarily the key talent. The key talent's still there
2 years ago, which is so.
But like, we have to stop finding excuses of why they closed them, and just know that they closed them, and whatever precedent is set based on that could eventually affect the studio that you hold more dear. Like for me, Turn 10, because of whatever metrics, because from a sales standpoint versus a non-sales standpoint or player engagement, if one is more important now than it was based on Phil's original vision, then what are we doing at this point? But I don't want to make it all about doom and gloom. Just be careful. My key thing: be careful what you ask for, because I know some people are calling for Phil's head. If Phil, being the gamer, can ever navigate through the suits above him, making certain calls like, well, you have 7% that you have to cut, and then he has to kind of make that decision based on his understanding of the market. He could probably navigate a little bit better than just them putting another suit in that spot. And I know we all see Matt Booty as this shark behind the scenes with the email about spending Sony out of business, but under his watch, his teams are not delivering, and that's whether that's his fault or the team's fault or management underneath him. He needs some more scrutiny, and I know there's quite a few people actually calling for his head. But that, once again, if you put somebody else in place, they might be along the same lines of a suit of where they just say, "Oh, well, you're pitching a new idea, you're off the list now," and we have to be careful what we ask for. So I'm not calling for any of the Microsoft heads. I'm not calling for any of the Xbox heads. I just want us to look at this and know that, well, at least some stuff now has been confirmed as far as the Call of Duty stuff. So that's great. But as far as the rumor or the murmurs of, more possible cuts coming, we kind of got to get prepared for it and look at the bigger picture of where the direction seems to be changing more so towards a company that wants, bigger results or bigger AAAs that they can, get more customers into, that are black hole games, which was kind of the opposite of what Game Pass was. It was supposed to be about the variety. But if we're going to just have a bunch of gas games like Call of Duty, like, Fallout 76, like not that there's a problem with any of those, but if we don't have the Hi-Fi Rushes or the Pentiments or, other smaller projects like that moving forward, then that means they're going to have to rely on indies, which at that point, are indies going to be willing to take that bag as opposed to just doing like what Microsoft is doing and just say, well, we'll just focus on the selling of the games on Steam and everywhere else, as opposed to taking that bag unless it's a heftier bag, which it seems like some of the willingness to spend as much might be reduced a bit, or it's just that they're more precise in the projects that they let into Game Pass now. But yeah, good interview. I really would like to, and I said this on social media. I'm more interested in Phil's interview with Ryan McCafferty at this point. Like originally when they were talking about that after the June showcase, I was like, whatever, because I'm not really an IGN fan. But now after these events, it's like I kind of want to see, and I hope he's still with the company up to that point, because I kind of feel like the silence, is he writing his resignation letter during this moment of silence kind of thing, or is it just that he knows this is a decision that was not easy at all, and he wouldn't have probably made it had it not been for the extra scrutiny that ABK brought. I honestly believe this is, I wouldn't say it's the end of anything. I just believe that this is a pivoting point where we will see more focus on Call of Duty. So essentially, Microsoft bought ABK to become ABK of gaming, basically. And it seems like we might have the same problem that ABK had with having all your studios working on Call of Duty. Well, we're not there yet, but I'm hoping that's not the direction they're headed, because cutting something like Tango just feels like that right now.
I mean, it's again, phenomenal points. Again, just if you stop and you just look at the playing field, and I want to bring Kevin. I'm calling by Kevin. Kevin, I want to bring you in on the conversation, because if you stop for a second and you look, I don't think that you're going to see Ninja Theory helping out in the next Call of Duty. I don't think you're going to see the Coalition helping out on the next Call of Duty. What I think I see, and again, I'd love to be proven wrong, that the studios that made some very incredible experiences for Activision before Call of Duty became this behemoth where they were putting out 3 different major studios. They had 3 years of dev time, and it was rush, get this Call of Duty out, makes a lot of money, right? All of those studios seemed to be positioned to go back to making games, exciting games. Singularity 2, I don't know if that's ever going to happen. Is another prototype, which would be an amazing IP rebirth. Hell, I would say at this point I'd just take a freaking remake from the ground up. Give me prototype 1 and we're golden. I don't know if we're going to get that. Toys for Bob is out. They left. Did they see the writing on the wall? Were they going to remain the Toys for Bob that brought us the revival of Crash and Spyro? Were they going to get back to that? I don't know, but they're no longer. I mean, they've signed a deal with Microsoft and they're working on a specific exclusive, which of course I am praying to the gaming gods that it is Banjo-Kazooie, because I'm never going to stop asking until they deliver. But they left. Now we have 4 studios that closed. So I want to keep it on target. You had some really, pointed opinions about the Sarabon interview that we talked about in the green room. I really want you to get back and talk about that, because they were really great points. Please, by all means, let's talk about it.
Yeah, so with the Sarah Bond interview, you could just, I was the one that said, I think she's tired. She's, when you're looking at this, Xbox has constantly been backpedaling on their back foot, defending narratives that are created and then Xbox is held to that they never created. And I think she's in the war room. She's probably been there since they announced these studio closures. She's probably just plain exhausted. And now an interview that was already planned, like you said, months ago, she's now having to explain something last minute that she has to be very careful how it's worded, because now you have people like Ash Parrish, who is saying, inputting context into something like that Matt Booty said about Hi-Fi Rush. He never specifically said Hi-Fi Rush. But now that's the narrative. Ryan McCaffrey, as of yesterday, it's now Microsoft Gaming. They've never said they're now being labeled as Microsoft Gaming, but hey, what's the narrative? It's very sad to see that happening, that narratives are being creative, and Microsoft is constantly on the back foot having to defend these narratives. With the studio closures, it sucks. I get it. I'm going to take emotions out of this a little bit, and it may seem very harsh on some of the things I might say, but if you look at it from a business standpoint, Roadhouse, small studio, got absorbed, wasn't really doing much. Alpha Dog, I believe Alpha Dog, right? They're a mobile studio. Why do you need them when you have King? Arcane Austin, that was a team that was more demoralized, dejected. They had a rough launch. Redfall just never got off the ground. How do you rebuild a team like that is demoralized? You really can't. And what are you going to do? Are you just going to keep adding negativity? Not negativity. I don't want to say that because I don't know the full story. But what are you going to do? How do you incorporate a team that's demoralized back into the fold and have them create great games that they want to create?
Well, can I add some context to that, Kevin?
Sure.
How do you attract great people that have talent? How do you attract talent to a studio that most people left? So that's the other thing. I'm not making excuses. I think Austin had an opportunity to make a comeback, but obviously they had to finish their promise to Redfall, which we know that they're not going to do. But how do you get people back after so many people left? Why did the people leave? They left because they weren't making a game that they were comfortable making. They were forced to make a gas game, which is not their forte. So people, like you were saying, were dejected, were demoralized, and were like, you know what? I'm out. And the studio, honestly, was a shell of its former self. But I blame the leaders at Bethesda for not taking a more hands-on approach. That falls on the leadership, and that's a failure on them. But please continue, sir.
Yeah. Well, I want to say I think it might have been a little bit of both, because I think Arcane Austin, everything was focused on Starfield. That's going to be the moneymaker. Everyone's looking at Starfield as the next Fallout, the next Skyrim, that kind of mentality. And I think you had Redfall that was just kind of pushed to the side. And they're like the redheaded stepchild, like, hey, I need help. Hey, I need help, guys. And then by then you're 2 weeks out from launch. You're announcing that this isn't going to be 60 FPS. You didn't raise the flags when you should have. And I think that falls on Harvey Smith and the team over at Arcane Austin. And that's another reason is, Redfall's now like leprosy. You're not going to have somebody wanting to join that team and get absorbed in that, because now you're going to get leprosy. So what do? There's no way to rebuild that, shut the studio down. With Tango, I'm with you. I think they should have waited, maybe held out just a little bit longer. But you have to think, and I'm not going to say that, Jez Corden's wrong in the sense. I think he's right. It wasn't a mass exodus. Was there talent drain? 100%. With somebody like Mikami, you get people that believe in visions. And I think that's what it was. And you may have had some talent drain, but it wasn't an exodus. No, I think there was enough that caused a little bit of strain on where they wanted to go, what projects they wanted to create. And when you start looking at that, games are taking now, even the smallest game is taking 4 years, 5 years to make. How can you justify that to Microsoft and Xbox? Hey, we did a game like Hi-Fi Rush, critically acclaimed. Yes. How did it do commercially, though? Where did it rank on, especially being incorporated into Game Pass? Where did that make on its commercial? Was it an internal success? 100%. Was it a commercial success, though? Debatable. And how can you now use that as like, let's make more of these games? We spent $100 million, we spent $100 million to make 10 million. It's hard to justify something, and especially if you don't have a plan going forward with that, and you're now asking, hey, I need millions more to spend another 5, 6, 7 years to start creating some more of these games, but you don't have somebody there like Mikami to focalize that vision and push something out. You got to make some tough calls here. And just like you said, with Windows, they're on the level now. Everybody keeps saying Xbox dead, Xbox dead, Xbox dead. We talked about this in the Groom Room. How many times has Xbox been dead and they're still leading the curve? How many times has that been saying? People just don't like the change. The curve is coming. And this is where I think Fuzzy was talking about, do we have to worry about Forza? No. They're a live service game. There's a reason why everybody is going live service in the industry. It's because it makes money. And that's what you want. Single player titles. We learned everything from the Sony leak that for some unknown reason, nobody called out. High ballooned costs, low margins, single player titles that made Sony money, just not the return, the ROI that they needed or wanted.
Yep.
I guarantee you in the next year, we will see Helldivers 2 or a PlayStation title on Xbox. You're going to see PlayStation going day and date on PC. It's a change that's coming, but like always, Microsoft is the bad guy for leading that charge. Don Matrick with the Xbox One, he led the charge on more and more of a digital storefront. Look at where we are at now. They're just getting ahead of a curve nobody wants to accept. Eventually, they will. You're going to start seeing, maybe not Nintendo, they're a beast of their own. They keep their costs very low. But I think eventually, as the time goes forward, you got to remember, they had the Wii U launch and then the massive success of Switch. It's kind of hard to see where they're going to be going, with that. It just takes one bad console to put you back in like an Xbox One to put you back in that spot, or a Wii U to put you back in that spot. Now you got to revitalize, you got to rechange. So there's a lot here that we don't understand, and that's fine. We're consumers. We're not market analysts, despite however many people on Twitter want to believe they are. We aren't. Does Microsoft and Xbox owe us an explanation on why they closed Tango? No. Unless you buy stock, unless you're affected financially, they don't owe us that answer. So does Phil need to come out and say it? No, we are less than 1% of their consumer base. Why do they need to come tell us why they are closing studios that we're not even buying the games like Hi-Fi Rush to make? So why are they going to come back? I think one thing that Xbox needs to stop doing is going on the defensive. They're already against the ropes. They're bobbing and weaving, they're like Muhammad Ali, and they're getting stung though. Unlike Muhammad Ali, they're getting hit after hit after hit. They need to start coming forward. They have to stop entertaining people like, and I like Tim. I like Tim Dog. I like Peter. I like these guys. They're good people, but they need to stop entertaining these people and they need to start going more as a business. And that's what they're doing right now. And people are not going to like that. And it's fine, but they don't owe us anything. We are consumers. Buy games, shut up, play them. Stop playing Twitter, start playing games. And that's what we have to start doing. So I think Microsoft is realizing that. Xbox is realizing that. And it's time for us to just play games and be happy with what we have. I get it. There's valid concern. There is valid concern about Hellblade. I'm a little concerned just because, where we'll see that's going. But there is valid concern there. What you even mentioned it. What is Ninja Theory going to do now? But I think they're going to take those teams with their great motion effects, their great motion capture, start incorporating it in other games. Halo, start bringing those teams like they did with totally blanking now, total brain fart, with Gears.
Coalition. Yes, the Coalition is actually specifically, that's a great point, because now the Coalition is hands-on with State of Decay 3. Like, that's a confirmed fact. They're working with them on that.
That's something that, has long been rumored that they were going to teams and helping them invest in Unreal 5. And now they actually announced, hey, we have a team. That's what they're doing. They could do the same exact thing now with with Ninja Theory. Get their motion effects. They have some of the best in the industry right now. Hellblade, absolutely amazing. I know we're going to talk about that later, so I'll save some of that. But yeah, overall, let's stop the dooming. Let's stop Xbox dead. They're on par with Windows. The Windows has always been a staple of what Xbox has been for the years now. They've been the foundation of Microsoft. Sorry, they've been the foundation of Microsoft for years. Now you have Xbox adding that second level. They're going to want a return on that. They're going to trim costs. They're going to make sure that it's a thing that they're making billions on keeps making them billions. It's capitalism. It sucks. There's no other way around it right now. Is this an Xbox problem? No, it's an industry problem. It's the way our system works that people just aren't going to like. So that's just, just to go back to it, I think Sarah Bond is on the defensive right now. I think she's tired. She's in the war room. There's no way to explain something that people are going to like. So, and she's just absolute sweetheart. I've met her once at the last Fan Fest, just complete sweetheart. Everybody at Xbox is super nice, awesome, humble. But yeah, it's just she's on the defensive right now. And I think she needs to come off of that and go on the offensive.